What is the true nature of belief in God? Is it a matter of pure faith, transcending the bounds of reason? Or can the existence of the divine be apprehended through rational inquiry and arguments? This fundamental question strikes at the heart of the ancient tension between faith and reason, a dichotomy that has shaped religious thought and theological discourse for millennia. Join us as we explore this profound interplay, delving into the perspectives of theologians, philosophers, and visionaries who have grappled with the roles of faith and reason in our understanding of the divine. Defining faith and reason. To frame our exploration, let us first define these core concepts. Faith can be understood as belief without empirical proof or evidence, often rooted in spiritual conviction, tradition, and personal experience. Reason, on the other hand, refers to the faculty of logical thinking, drawing conclusions from evidence and constructing rational arguments. While faith resides in the domain of the unseen and metaphysical, reason operates within the constraints of the observable physical world. This apparent dichotomy between faith and reason has been a perennial source of debate and reflection within theological circles. Some view them as fundamentally opposed, faith being a surrender to the mysteries of the divine, while reason seeks to dissect and comprehend. Yet others have sought to harmonize these two pathways, each illuminating different facets of the ultimate truth. Historical theological perspectives. The relationship between faith and reason in belief in God has captivated the minds of theologians, philosophers, and spiritual thinkers throughout history. Let us explore some of the seminal perspectives that have shaped this enduring dialogue. St. Augustine, the influential 4th century philosopher and theologian, advocated the primacy of faith over reason in his famous dictum, "I believe in order to understand." For Augustine, faith was the essential starting point, a gift that illuminated the path towards deeper comprehension of divine truth. His monumental works, such as Confessions and City of God, underscore the centrality of faith as the foundation for theological understanding. In the 13th century, St. Thomas Aquinas offered a harmonizing perspective, proposing a complementary relationship between faith and reason. In his magnum opus, Summa Theologica, Aquinas argued that while faith transcends reason, reason can bolster and support faith through natural theology, the rational study of God's existence and attributes based on observation of the natural world. His famous 5 ways to prove God's existence exemplify this synthesis of faith and reason. The 17th century French philosopher and mathematician Blaise Pascal presented a pragmatic and rational perspective on religious belief in his work, Pensées. Pascal's wager posits that it is a rational choice to believe in God, as the potential rewards of eternal bliss far outweigh the costs of a life of faith. This probabilistic argument frames belief as a logical wager based on reason and self-interest. In contrast, the existentialist philosopher Søren Kierkegaard emphasized the primacy of a passionate, subjective faith that transcends and even defies reason. In his seminal work, Fear and Trembling, Kierkegaard extolled the virtue of taking a leap of faith, an embrace of the paradoxical and absurd nature of religious belief that cannot be grasped through reason alone. For Kierkegaard, true faith required a bold confrontation with the limits of rational understanding. Modern theological perspectives. The dialogue between faith and reason has continued to evolve and take on new dimensions in modern theological thought, reflecting the complexities of our rapidly changing world. The 20th century Swiss theologian Karl Barth championed a neo-orthodox perspective that emphasized the transcendence and radical otherness of God. In his monumental Church Dogmatics, Barth argued that faith is primarily rooted in divine revelation, which stands beyond the realm of human reason and comprehension. For Barth, faith was a response to God's self-disclosure, not a product of rational argumentation. The German-American theologian Paul Tillich offered a more existential approach, defining faith as the state of being ultimately concerned, a total commitment to that which one values most profoundly. In his book Dynamics of Faith, Tillich explored the relationship between faith and culture, suggesting that faith can manifest itself in secular as well as religious forms, challenging reason to confront questions of ultimate meaning and significance. The contemporary philosopher Alvin Plantinga has made significant contributions to the field of Reformed epistemology, which posits that belief in God can be properly basic, that is, rational and warranted without requiring further propositional evidence or arguments. In his work God and Other Minds, Plantinga contends that just as we accept the existence of other minds based on the inescapable phenomena of our experiences, so too can belief in God be a properly basic belief grounded in the inherent sensus divinitatis, an innate sense or awareness of the divine. This view seeks to validate faith as a legitimate starting point for reason. Theological arguments for God's existence. Throughout the centuries, theologians and philosophers have constructed intricate arguments aimed at providing rational grounds for belief in God's existence. Let us examine some of the most influential. The ontological argument, first formulated by the 11th century philosopher Anselm of Canterbury in his work Proslogion, is a deductive proof that seeks to establish God's existence through reason alone. Anselm reasoned that since God is, by definition, the greatest conceivable being, that supreme being must possess the property of necessary existence. For if God lacked existence, reasoned Anselm, then a greater being could be conceived, one that exists. Therefore, God's existence is logically entailed. The cosmological argument, immortalized by Aquinas 5 ways, reasons from the existence of the contingent, caused universe to the necessity of an uncaused first cause, a transcendent, immutable being that must be identified as God. This argument rests on the philosophical principles of causality and the impossibility of an infinite regress of causes, ultimately grounding all existence in a necessary, self-existent entity. The teleological argument, famously articulated by William Paley's watchmaker analogy, contends that the intricate order, complexity, and apparent design permeating the natural world implies the existence of an intelligent designer God. Just as the precise mechanisms of a watch suggest an intelligent watchmaker, so too does the remarkable fine-tuning and purpose observed in the cosmos point towards a divine creator. While these arguments have been extensively debated and critiqued, they represent seminal efforts to bridge the realms of faith and reason, providing philosophical frameworks for rationally affirming belief in God's existence. The interplay of faith and reason. While faith and reason may seem opposed on the surface, many religious traditions and thinkers have sought to integrate and harmonize these two pathways to truth. Within the Christian tradition, theologians like St. Anselm and Thomas Aquinas exemplified how faith and reason can be mutually reinforcing. Anselm's motto, "Faith Seeking Understanding," encapsulates the view that faith provides the foundational convictions, which then spur rational inquiry and philosophical reflection to deepen one's comprehension of spiritual truths. In the Islamic intellectual tradition, figures like Averroes and Avicenna synthesized Aristotelian philosophy with theological precepts, demonstrating how reason could clarify and elucidate religious doctrine. The great Muslim polymath Al-Ghazali, in his pivotal work, The Incoherence of the Philosophers, struck a balance by affirming the primacy of faith while also acknowledging the vital role of reason in interpreting scriptural teachings. The ancient Hindu philosophy of Vedanta exemplifies a deep interweaving of faith, reason, and spiritual insight. The Upanishads and the Bhagavad Gita present profound metaphysical concepts couched in logical arguments and analogies, inviting the seeker to transcend reason through spiritual realization while also employing it as a stepping stone. Contemporary thinkers like the physicist priest John Polkinghorne and the theologian N.T. Wright have championed a fruitful dialogue between theology and science, demonstrating how religious faith can be enriched by rigorous empirical inquiry while still maintaining its distinct revelatory foundations. By exploring such integrative perspectives across traditions, we glimpse the potential for faith and reason to exist not as contradictory opposites, but as complementary lenses that can unveil deeper truths when harmonized. Contemporary theological debates. The relationship between faith and reason remains an area of vibrant discussion and evolving perspectives in modern theological discourse. Some theologians, echoing sentiments of religious existentialism, continue to emphasize the radical transcendence of faith beyond the constraints of reason. They argue that religious belief is ultimately grounded in an ineffable encounter with the divine, a transformative experience that cannot be reduced to rational propositions or philosophical arguments. Reason, from this view, can at best serve an ancillary role in interpreting and systematizing revelatory insights, but can never fully capture the essence of faith. Other theological thinkers maintain that while faith and reason may seem distinct, they are inextricably intertwined in the human quest to apprehend ultimate reality. Proponents of natural theology, like Richard Swinburne and William Lane Craig, contend that the existence of God can be established as the most plausible and rational explanation for the manifold evidences we observe in nature, philosophy, and human experience. For these thinkers, faith and reason are allies, jointly illuminating the path to metaphysical truth. At the nexus of science and theology, robust debates have arisen around the viability of God hypotheses in light of modern scientific cosmology, evolutionary biology, and our ever-expanding understanding of the universe's origins and mechanisms. Some assert that contemporary scientific advancement has rendered traditional theological explanations obsolete, while others find profound congruence between scientific and religious perspectives, each enriching and informing the other. The dialogue is further shaped by postmodern currents that question overarching meta-narratives and universal truth claims, including those stemming from religious faith. Theologians grapple with how to recontextualize and reframe ancient doctrines within our pluralistic, rapidly shifting cultural landscape. These multifaceted debates within contemporary theology reflect the enduring relevance and vitality of the faith-reason discourse. As our philosophical tools grow more sophisticated and our scientific knowledge deepens, new vistas of insight continue to emerge, reshaping how we navigate the boundaries between faith, reason, and the ultimate ground of being. Thought experiments. To further illuminate the nuances of this profound dialogue, let us examine two influential thought experiments that have shaped perspectives on faith and reason. Pascal's wager, as we discussed earlier, presents a pragmatic argument for rationally choosing to believe in God. Pascal posits that each individual faces two possibilities. God exists or does not exist. If God does not exist, the rewards and penalties of belief or disbelief are relatively inconsequential from a finite mortal perspective. However, if God does exist, the potential payoff of eternal bliss for belief is infinite, while the cost of disbelief is eternal damnation, an unbearable risk. Thus, Pascal contends that the rational choice, even from a purely self-interested standpoint, is to wager belief in God's existence. This line of reasoning aims to demonstrate that faith can arise from a reasoned analysis of the prudential costs and benefits, rather than blind assent. Critics, however, have challenged the underlying assumptions and ethical implications of this argument. The problem of evil poses a formidable challenge to reconciling faith in an omnipotent, omnibenevolent God with the stark reality of suffering, injustice, and moral evil that pervades our world. How, the argument goes, could an all-powerful and perfectly good deity permit such unfathomable depths of cruelty, torture, and misery to exist? This paradox has vexed theologians and philosophers for ages, with a diverse array of responses and theodicies proposed. Some affirm that while the existence of evil is undeniable, it does not negate God's existence, attributing suffering to human free will, soul-making processes, or ultimate metaphysical purposes beyond our comprehension. Others contend that the degree of evil renders divine benevolence incompatible with traditional theistic beliefs. Still others propose reframing or limiting the traditional omni-attributes ascribed to God. This dilemma exemplifies the intricate interplay between faith, reason, and our deepest moral intuitions, challenging us to rigorously examine the coherence and implications of our religious worldviews. Bridging theology, philosophy, and science. Ultimately, the question of the relationship between faith and reason in belief in God cannot be fully resolved within the confines of any single discipline. A truly holistic understanding necessitates an interdisciplinary approach that bridges theology, philosophy, and the empirical sciences. From a theological perspective, faith provides the foundational spiritual insights, revelatory experiences, and doctrinal frameworks that undergird religious belief systems. Yet reason, through the tools of philosophy and logic, can clarify, systematize, and defend those beliefs against incoherence or contradiction. It can also constructively critique faith claims, prompting deeper theological reflection. Philosophy, with its rigorous methods of inquiry and analysis, brings indispensable conceptual clarity to the metaphysical questions surrounding God's existence and nature. It forges the semantic frameworks and ontological distinctions necessary for sophisticated reasoning about transcendent realities. From the cosmological and ontological arguments to contemporary debates in philosophy of religion, Philosophical perspectives profoundly shape the intellectual landscape for evaluating faith-based belief systems. The sciences, far from being antithetical to religious belief, can potentially enrich theological understanding in profound ways. Fields like cosmology, evolutionary biology, neuroscience, and consciousness studies continually expand the horizons of our knowledge about the origins, mechanisms, and nature of physical reality. These advances can potentially unveil new insights into theological questions of creation, divine action, human nature, and our place in the cosmos. Furthermore, the sciences model rigorous empirical and theoretical methodologies that could constructively inform religious epistemology, how we assess the grounds and warrants for theological truth claims. Emerging scientific perspectives on cognition, cross-cultural variation, and the psychology of belief may shed light on the experiential roots of faith and religious experiences. Ultimately, by fostering an open interdisciplinary dialogue spanning theology, philosophy, and science, we stand to gain a more holistic, multifaceted understanding of the profound questions surrounding faith, reason, and the divine. Each field synergistically informs and constrains the others, collectively illuminating a richer tapestry of insight into the human condition and our quest for ultimate meaning. Our exploration into the relationship between faith and reason has traversed centuries of theological reflection, philosophical speculation, and empirical investigation. Yet, despite the prodigious efforts of luminaries across these disciplines, the fundamental tension endures, an enduring paradox that appears to elude tidy resolution. At the heart of this quandary lie the profound metaphysical mysteries that have captivated humanity since time immemorial. The nature of the divine, the origins of existence, the ineffable complexity of consciousness. These are the gaps into which both faith and reason have ceaselessly ventured, each seeking to shed light from its respective vantage point. For many, faith is an inescapable calling, a resonance that stirs the very depths of one's being, transcending the confines of rational analysis. It is a surrender to the ultimate ground of being, however ineffable and paradoxical. Kierkegaard's existential leap boldly embraces this transrational dimension as the vital spark of religious devotion. Yet even for those who firmly stand on the terrain of faith, reason remains an indispensable tool for interpreting sacred texts, reconciling doctrinal tensions, and forging intellectual frameworks that lend coherence and consistency to spiritual truth. The great theologians across traditions exemplified this fruitful dialogue between heart and mind. On the other hand, reason's uncompromising demand for justification and logic compels us to continually fortify or revise our beliefs in light of new evidence, insights, and philosophical critiques. For the rigorously rational, faith claims must withstand the scrutiny of logic, cohere with established facts about the world, and provide explanatory value or be discarded. Perhaps, as contemporary speculative metaphysicians and philosophers of cosmology theorize, the genuine resolution to this eternal dichotomy lies in recognizing the inherent limitations and incompleteness of our current epistemological vantage points. Just as revolutions in physics transcended the classical worldview, unveiling a vastly grander and stranger cosmos, so too may a revolution in our understanding of consciousness, existence, and metaphysical reality be forthcoming. Whether such a reconciling paradigm shift emerges or the faith-reason tension endures, one truth remains inviolable: the human mind's ceaseless yearning to part the veils of ignorance, to peer into the ultimate ground of all existence, and to apprehend the deepest resonances of meaning that reverberate through reality itself. It is this primordial spiritual thirst that has propelled the greatest seekers across the ages, from the ecstatic mystics to the rigorously rational metaphysicians, to scale the dizzying heights of faith and reason in their quest for answers. And it is this burning desire that will continue driving us, as a species, to explore ever new vistas of understanding about the nature of the divine. For whether one's path is illumined by the radiant lights of faith or the blazing fires of reason, the journey towards truth is inevitably one of transcendence of established boundaries, transcendence of partial perspectives, and ultimately transcendence of ourselves. It is to shed our fragmented, limited apprehensions like soiled cloaks and embrace a more universal, integrated knowingness. In this spirit of transcendence, perhaps the greatest insight we can glean from this age-old discourse is to hold our most cherished beliefs whether of faith or reason, with profound humility and openness. To nurture the willingness to continually grow, evolve, and expand our understanding in the face of new revelations, whether they flow from mystical epiphany or empirical observation. It is to embrace a profound concordance between the eye of faith, so finely attuned to the subtle realities that elude objective perception, and the lucid eye of reason, which pierces through the veil of delusion and rendered truth starkly visible. For the two are indispensable partners in this never-ending expedition, the yin and yang whose dynamism spawns wisdom. Perhaps ultimately, the relationship between faith and reason is akin to two wings of the same bird, jointly empowering our souls to take flight into the loftiest territories of consciousness and being. Severed from one or the other, our ascent becomes inherently imbalanced and constrained. But when harmoniously united and working in concert, the very heights of transcendence are rendered accessible. So let us soar into the deepest mysteries, emboldened by the arcs of faith and uplifted by the elevating winds of reason. For it is in their sublime union that we come home to the very cosmos that birthed us. A cosmos permeated with fires of infinite potential, awash in fields of mystery, and infused with a beckoning resonance that is the primordial song of creation itself. We invite you to immerse yourself in this great passion play between faith and reason that has inflamed the hearts and minds of seekers across the ages. Let these perennial questions ignite your own hunger for deeper understanding. Ponder and ruminate. Feel free to question or affirm. But most of all, embark on your own journey of transcendence, following the arcs of conviction and rational insight wherever they may lead. Share your reflections and critiques with us. We relish the opportunity to engage in this vibrant exchange of perspectives. For it is through the cross-pollination of diverse vantage points that new frontiers of wisdom are unveiled. And be sure to join us again, as we continue charting unexplored territories at the flourishing intersections of theology, philosophy, and the modern sciences. Together, we shall push towards new heights of insight about the ultimate ground of being and the deepest resonances of existence. For those hungering for further illumination, we've curated a selection of enriching texts to accompany you on this profound sojourn, from the immortal words of Augustine, Aquinas, and Anselm, to the piercing modern brilliance of philosophers and cosmologists daring to redefine the boundaries of metaphysical reality itself. May your path be guided by the radiant lights of faith and reason in harmonious synergy. And may your journey leave you awash in transcendent awe before the infinite depths of the cosmos and the unfathomable mysteries pulsating through your very being. Until we cross paths again, we bid you the most sublime adventures into the very heart of existence.